All right, welcome back to another episode Inside Hollywood with Vinny. Today, returning guest, we have a guest who knows a thing or two about drama, big personalities, and building a true entertainment empire. She's the creator and executive producer behind the smash hit VH1 franchise Mob Wives. She's built a career on bringing authentic, unfiltered, larger than life stories to the big screen and never backing down.
Mm.
I want to welcome back to the show Jennifer Graziano. How are you, Jennifer?
Good, good, good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for making time for us again. My audience loves you. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that. Everybody loves you, but my audience really does love you a lot.
Oh, thank you.
So
That's good to know.
thanks for coming on back. But I know you have some news. You got some things in the works. Tell us a little bit about it.
We just came off of the Mob Wives sit down tour, which was a touring Q&A stage show with me and my sister and Marissa Jade and a couple of special guests. It was really fun. And now I'm jumping right into the next thing, which is Married by the Mob. Sort of an extension of the brand in a way, and it's a immersive theatrical experience. You are transported into a big, over-the-top, crazy Italian wedding, where every audience member is part of the show. Renee is starring, as well as that hairdresser Kristen. We got Vinny Madugno, who is a radio personality, drama teacher, singer extraordinaire. And we've got the most incredible cast of theater trained actors ever. I mean, everyone from Sean Amato and Sydney Bossack, and I'm going to forget somebody and they'll kill me. I feel like I'm giving my speech when I win the award. Um, Chris Lazaro, Michael Lewis, David Miles. Oh, Deborah Toscana, can't forget her. She's one of our leads. God, Lauren Updike and Jackie Kraft, Jackie Orina. Oh, and I'm sure I forgot somebody. It's directed by Vivian Sorensen, who's a theater director and an unscripted showrunner who ran Chopped for 150 million years. I wrote it, I'm producing it, I financed it, and we are now, we sold out our debut run 3 nights in a row in New Jersey, and now we have 7 shows coming up in Rhode Island. Well, the next one is Hudson Valley, New York at City Winery, Rhode Island, and then 5 more in New Jersey. I just hung up the phone with Tarrytown, and we're putting a tour together in Florida. So that's super fun. And aside from that, I'm still working on TV, and I got so much to talk about with that too. But go ahead, let's talk about the play first.
Well, I mean, you just by everything you just mentioned, you got a tremendous turnout. People are loving it, so it sounds like a hit. Knock on wood. How did that all kind of come about?
I'm one of those people who wants to try and succeed in at least everything. So I already, back in the day, I wrote a song, and that was a #1 international bestseller. And with that, I signed the artist to a UK label. I produced unscripted TV, and that was a hit in Mob Wives. I wrote a pilot that sold to HBO back in like 2000. I was right around the end of Mob Wives, so I want to say like 16, 17. So but the next thing I haven't written was a play, right? So I grew up going like 80s prom and Tony and Tina's wedding and all that immersive experience, theater type environments I really always loved. So I said, you know what? Everyone wants Mob Wives to come back. We're having so many problems with different networks and the mergers, and it's set up and it's greenlit, but then it's not greenlit because this, I'll get into that later. But anyway, long story short, the fans wanted something. So I said, you know what? Let me give them this in the interim. This is something I always wanted to do. And so I did it, and here we are. So it's just another notch on my belt, I guess.
Yeah, theater's not an easy thing. I mean, it's a beautiful medium. It takes a lot of, I mean, a lot of work and a lot of great people coming together to make it happen. So it's not as easy as it looks. I mean, none of it is, but I loved it. Yeah, you mentioned 2018's wedding, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's exactly what I was thinking in the beginning. Because I remember, around the neighborhood, they would always have it. Every year you would see somebody that's doing 2018s. And I worked at a place called Toronto's, which was owned by the Martirano family.
Huh?
Steve down in Fort Lauderdale, his relatives, and they had. I remember they used to have something like that. And they had something called Gangsterland, but it was cool because everybody got involved and the audience, and
Exactly.
as you say, fully immersive. And it was always a fun thing, and those things always sold out. I was like, I miss those type of plays. You don't see them much. I'm so glad you brought this, out into the public.
Yeah, well, you know what? I was also seeing that like the new trend is IRL experiences. Everyone's tired of, the disconnect that the phones have given us and now AI, and people are looking for that authentic connection. Get in the room, go out to dinner, but they don't want to just go to dinner. They want to have a bigger experience. So they're all these type of shows, everything from like Netflix is doing Netflix houses across the country and they're bringing like Stranger Things into the market, and the John Wick show is happening. So a lot of these brands are taking it from the screen to the room. And, I like to always either be ahead of the curve or with the curve. So I said, you know what, I have this great piece of Mob Wives IP that I could sort of do a spin on and put it in the room. And we're doing, it's got vibes of Tony and Tina's, but it's totally different in the sense of, the story is obviously totally different. I wrote it as sort of a Romeo, a love story, really, more than just an over-the-top chaotic wedding. I mean, that's the basis of it, but there's a real story to be told, set in this crazy world, right, that we're from, that everyone thinks is so glamorous, but so difficult for the young ones who are trying to fall in love and start a life when the streets are pulling you back. And so it's got a great story at its heart. It is obviously over the top ridiculous in that sense. But it's super fun. And then we also took elements of reality TV and brought them into the room too. So we put confessionals. We start the show with confessionals, a la the green screen when reality TV stars speak to the camera, and we do that throughout the evening within the show, and then we end the show with those confessionals. So it's really like one big crazy episode of Mob Wives happening in and around you, but really more of a family story. So. Yeah, and to your point, it is very hard. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. And I can tell you two things that I've learned this year. One, I hate being on tour. I don't want to be on tour again. Two, theater is hard. And I am a one-man show in the sense that I'm running it all, everything from, you know, the marketing of it, the booking of it. So after we get through this year and I kind of really solidified it and locked the script, I'm going to, take it out for, to a bigger production company to come on board, or a producer that wants to kind of run it day to day, an investor to really grow it where we can start, hiring staff and Jenny doesn't have to do it all because I have so many other things going on the TV and film side. So I might have bit off a little bit more than I can chew, which is fine because I do that. I like to challenge myself. I like to take the plunge and then figure it out later. So
I think we gotta get you a vacation, Jennifer.
that too. I think I'm
Anybody
gonna.
who's watching out there, if you want to donate, all right, we'll do a GoFundMe for Jennifer's vacation, well-deserved vacation. But I give you a lot of credit because it is a lot of work. You're doing it, and I can understand because you want it done right. You want control over what's going on. You can't afford someone to drop the ball because it's a very serious thing. A lot of things are at stake. I give you a lot of credit too for maintaining, hold on to the IP. A lot of people sometimes they kind of either sell off or whatever, but it's good that you held on to everything, and you're an example of why we should do that. And we don't really need anybody to give us permission. I'm an independent filmmaker myself, so I'm always looking for to work and collaborate with other people that are in that same genre because you can't wait for anybody to come knocking. You got to do it yourself.
Exactly. And I just did it. And I am a little bit, yes, of course I held on to all the IP, but in this instance, obviously I want to grow it to a point where it's even that much more valuable so someone can come in and either buy into it and continue to have it grow and then maybe ultimately sell it completely. I don't know. But I definitely need some help and some hands. That's for sure.
Well, you're doing a tremendous job. I see you all over social media. It's got a lot of hype. You got some great people, and you have a really a lot of people that a lot of people that are connected to it have really big followings. So that all helps, and and that's why I love social media because this would be like so hard to do if this was even 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, and I purposely cast it with a mix of celebrity, obviously Renee, and then also real theater trained actors and actresses, but a certain level of social media influence too, because nowadays you got to have the mix of all three. So like I said, we have that hairdresser Kristen, and then in Hudson Valley we have a special guest, Kitchen Killer Lisa, who is another social media breakout star, and she's got like 1 million followers, maybe two for all I know. And she's so fucking funny, raw, and she's coming on, and we did some promo vignettes of like little promo videos of kind of the backstory of the play. In other words, like how we got to where we are, and they are so funny. They're on YouTube right now, and the Married by the Mob page, and we're starting to like really pump those out. So my next step is possibly to, well, not possibly, it is happening. The next step is also turning this into a micro drama in support of the theatrical experience in the room. So just that, and that. And then on the other end of things, I just got a script that I wrote optioned by a huge company. We are meeting with showrunners now to your point before. Um, and it's incredible. It's not mob related. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. Um, it's something so for the past couple of years, honestly, probably since COVID, because I had a scripted show set up with ABC Signature um, when COVID first started, and that stalled for the length of COVID, obviously. Then we put it back into development. Then the writer's strike happened, and so I got it back, and now it's this particular show is set up with Lee Daniels and his company for him to direct and co-produce with me. But in that whole time span, so I would say from 2020 to now, I just sat and I incubated and I wrote about 5 TV pilots. I wrote 2 feature films, and I just developed. And now I'm starting to see the fruits of all of that labor. And that's why I need somebody to come and take this theater project off my hands, because, you know, I'm going to basically manifest that this series is going to get greenlit and it's going to be on the air, and I'm going to be in the writer's room, and I'm going to be off doing that. That's my goal. It's always been my goal. I have 2 other scripted series set up at studios already, and 9 unscripted shows set up in development with various production partners. So, and that all happened within this half a year from all the stuff that I was building over those dead years, I call them, because nobody was doing any work because of COVID and the strike. So I'm excited. There's a lot going on, and I'm a little overwhelmed because it is just me. I will tell you though, my son, so what nobody knows is that my company is called JustJenn, not because it's just me, even though it is just me. Um, it's Justin and Jennifer. So my son is Justin, I'm Jennifer. So obviously. So back in the day when I wrote the song I was telling you about, I got a publishing deal, and they're like, "Well, what's the name of your company?" And I think my son was probably like 3 years old at the time, maybe two, I don't even know. And I was like, "Just Jen." And so that's kind of been the company name ever since. And now he's old enough and he went to school for this to officially join the company and start working with me. So he's sort of my first partner employee. And then I did a unscripted deal, a first look deal with this kid, Antonio Posterino. I say kid because he's 26. Well, actually, I think he just turned 27 yesterday. Um, but he is super smart and super connected and super driven. And with him, he reinvigorated my unscripted side because I was so focused on scripted. I wasn't even caring about unscripted. So I'm talking a lot, but I guess that's the point of a podcast, right?
Why you're here. That's why you're here. Well, and a lot of people that are kind of just getting their feet wet in the business, it's hard. It could be feast or famine, right? It could be the hardest thing in the world to
No,
try.
it's always famine, and then it's, oh my God, you just had a feast finally one time in your life, and then you go back to famine. It's crazy, but I'm sorry to cut you off, guys.
No, I had an interview with Patrick Gallo, who is the guy who played, if you remember The Offer, it was a story about how they made, The Godfather. He was the guy who played Mario Puzo. And so, and when I talked to him, he said the same thing. He's like, you go through all these ups and downs, and it's like, there's long years where you're just kind of wondering if I should keep doing this or not. And then all of a sudden, boom, something amazing that you never thought would happen just happens.
Yeah.
So it's about resilience, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I will never quit until I get a scripted show on the air, because the one thing I haven't accomplished yet, and I will do it, and I will not stop until I do. And I'm hoping that it's next year so I can kind of coast a little bit, get a few more on, and then I can stop.
I love it. You're driven. That's good. I like interviewing people that are like that because it makes me want to do some more. I'm like, because I'm like that too. I want to get things done. I want to accomplish things. I want to make sure, I don't, I do. You only have but so much time in your life, and you never know what's going to happen next. You want to take advantage of every opportunity. So that's good. You must be a Sagittarius.
I am a Scorpio, so I think
Close.
Scorpios are probably we're stubborn and driven. So that's the we will never quit thing in us. And at the end of the day, though, it's like I need to. Well, I don't need to because he's his own person, but I want to leave my son a legacy or build a legacy with him, you know? So that's part of the drive too. And that's part of the you can't quit yet because you didn't get there. Um, but there is always like, okay, to your point, it's like, oh, what other revenue stream can I have while I sit and wait for the masterpiece to happen? So I started consulting on other people's scripted projects and helping them develop them to a point of sale. So I love that. I love development. It's my thing. I can sit in a hole and just develop, 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 and not even come up for air. So that's fun. I'm doing that on a few projects right now. And then what else do I got going on? Um, I don't know. I took the sun the other day. That's probably the best thing I got other than work right now. I have a great group of girlfriends. We like to hang out and go out to eat, and that's my recharge, I think, just hanging out with them, and then I go right back to work.
Well, you have the feast coming up pretty soon, San Gennaro next month, so you get a chance to
Well,
get
I'm
out
going to the one in Boston first. I think it's August. I'll be there, I think, the 22nd and 23rd. So I'm going to do that one first. Then I'll be back for this one. But I think our show in Rhode Island, one of our shows kind of competes with the feast, I think, one
and
of the nights. So I don't know if I'll be there every night, but it's so crowded.
Yeah, I know, I know. I think I'm going to be there. I think that the Friday before the end of it, I think. Either Friday or Saturday before the end of it. But anyway, with that being said, now I don't know if I ever asked you this, but how did this all really start with you? How did you begin to want to become a writer, a producer? Like, how did that all begin?
So when I was a kid, I just used to write everything, poems and stories, and I tried to write a book probably when I was like 9. And I just loved writing, but I wanted to be a doctor. That was it. I was going to be a doctor. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I started NYU as a pre-med student, and then I couldn't cut the cat in the biology lab. And then I knew once I couldn't cut the cat, I was never cutting the body. And so at that point, I said, you know what? What's the next best thing to being a doctor or psychologist? So I went to school for psychology, got a master's degree, and never used it. Probably still paying for it. But when I came out of school, when you have a psychology's master, in order to really practice psychology, you have to have a PhD. I was done. I was like, no, no more. Let me go to work. And the next natural progression for that is HR. So I land in the HR department in Sony Music. And then I'm like, my creative juices are flowing. I met a few, my friend at the time was managing Wu-Tang, so they were always in the building. And then I met a guy named Marvin Peart out at a club one night, and no, he wasn't head yet, but he was like a VP in A&R. And he was with a guy named Max, and they were both wearing Sony jackets. I was like, oh, I work at Sony too, whatever. And we was just like, hi, 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 whatever. And that was it. And then I started to see him in the building. And, he was like, what department are you in? This is a funny story if you have time, so let me tell it to you really quick. He was like, what department are you in? And I'm like, HR, compensation and relocation. And he was like, oh, so how much everybody gets paid? So I was like, yeah. So he was like, well, meet me in the cafeteria tomorrow. Let's have lunch. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So we have lunch, and he's like, I'm in the middle of my renegotiation. I said, I know, I'm handling your paperwork. So he was like, oh, so you know how much I get paid? I said, yeah. He goes, do you know how much such and such gets paid? So I go, yeah. He goes, well, how much? I'm like, I can't tell you that. And he's like, why not? I'm like, because, well, confidentiality. So in my mind, it's also like no ratting, right? So I'm like, I'm not a rat. He's like, what do you mean? This isn't ratting. We're just having a conversation. I just want to know what I should ask for on my next negotiation. I'm like, not going to happen. Lo and behold, we became friends, and I had told him I had some music. So I brought it up to I think it was the 21st floor, I want to say. Played him the music. He liked the song. And he's like, why are you down there? You should be up here. You're very creative. Anyway, long story short, I got the job up there. And that's how my music career started. Um, he then was promoted to head of A&R. I found a song, an artist that I wanted to sign. Tommy Mottola said, hell no. The artist signed, I think, a Jive. So I was like, you know what? That sucks. But that song is really great. I'm going to write the comeback song to that. And Marvin was like, no, you're not. Stop. He's like, we'll get a writer. I'm like, no, I'm going to write it. He goes, yeah, 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 whatever. I come back the next day with the song. He's like, you were serious? So I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, who's going to sing it? I said, I'll handle that too. So I did an audition. I found a girl to sing it. So it was like the first comeback record of Top 40 Radio ever. You know, they usually do that
Oh,
with rap
yeah.
songs, but not in Top 40. So Marvin then signed her to his own label. I managed her. The song went number one, debuted at Z100, number one for the day, went number one internationally. We toured the world with her. And then he went off to the Weinstein Company. This is how this all started. It's a very long story. But anyway, long story short, he became my mentor, best friend, whatever. Till this day, I never told him how much such and such was making at Sony. And that was what he um, appreciated in me so much. The confidentiality, the ride or die. He used to say I was the workhorse, worker to rider to the wheels come off. She will never stop. And he looked me in the face one day, the day he hired me, and he was like, "You're gonna make me $1 million." I go, no, I'm gonna make you like $10 million. He was just like, okay, whatever. Behold, I partnered with him on Mob Wives when he was at the Weinstein Company, and he got me the deal there, and the rest is history. And I made him a couple mil, so he was very happy, of course, and that's how it started. But Mob Wives itself, I was writing a scripted series, the one that I sold to HBO back in the day, that I got back, that is now set up, that has got back. So that same fucking series, in a way, a variation of it. And I saw the Housewives blowing up on television, and I was like, that's an easier way into TV because I can do that. And I got all the women at my disposal right underneath my nose, and we'll mob it. And so I got the cast together. I shot a sizzle reel, and then I called Marvin. And I was like, so I got this, and I have no fucking idea what to do with it. So he's like, all right, let me take you to A&E. My friend Steve Harris is over there, whatever. We go to A&E, and Steve Harris wants it that day in the room. That's it. We want it. Let me go talk upstairs. We left there with an offer. But
Wow.
the offer also included that I had to go get a production partner. And I was like, no, I don't. I'm going to produce it. He's like, no, we need a company. I'll be the company, I said. He's like, no, little girl, you need a fucking big company. Go find one. So I did a bunch of interviews. And I didn't really like anyone at the time. And then Marvin said, let me send this to the Weinstein Company. So he sent it off, and they passed on it. And I was so fun. I'm like, what are they, dumb? And whatever. So I'm out one night with the girls, and he calls me because he was also trying to get me a job inside the Weinstein Company at the time. And he was at Nobu, and he's like, I'm sitting here with David Glasser. Come by. I want you to meet him so you can get this job. So I'm like, I can't. I got the girls with me. He's like, oh, just bring them. I'm like, no way. They're animals. I'm not going to bring them. And he was like, just bring them. Trust me. So I'm like, all right. So we go. It was just Drita, Renee, and Karen. Carla wasn't there that night. We go to sit down. It's Marvin, David Glasser, Ben Famiglietti, who was running like I think theater and international sales at the time there. And within 5 minutes, David Glasser is like, and I don't know if you know who David Glasser is now, but he runs 101 Studios, Yellowstone. He's like the most prolific
Yeah.
ever. So he was like, within 5 minutes, he was like, this is a show. We got to make a show out of this. I go, yeah, you pass on that show. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you passed. We sent it to you. You didn't want it. He's like, I never even seen this. So it turns out Marvin sent it to the LA office and they passed. So David that night was texting Harvey. Ben was texting Harvey. I had a meeting with Harvey the very next day, and I pitched him not only Mob Wives, but the show I was writing that got sold and and he gave me an unscripted and scripted deal. Marvin was already there as film finance and acquisitions. And so we partnered. He was the film side of the company, and I was the TV side of the company, and the rest is history. And that's how it started.
I love it.
I forgot, I forgot one part. When we went back to all the networks with Harvey, I went from having one offer at A&E to five offers from five networks, and probably the best reality TV deal that was ever made. Thank you, Harvey, for that at least.
You know what? And I didn't hear you say maybe you did have one, but did you ever have like a manager or a representative to kind of help you? Or I guess Marvin was your, I guess.
Marvin, right? And then I became a manager. I was a manager in music. I was managing. So in my mind, I was a manager. I didn't need one.
Yeah.
But Marvin was sort of, yeah, he was like that guru. I was always like like I said, the workhorse, and he was like the closer. He would just swoop in, close the deal, and it'd be great, So,
Yeah, because in deals like that, you always want to make sure you don't get exploited or someone doesn't take advantage of you and
I'm
come
gonna be
out of
honest with you.
this
I
or
got the best deal when after my deal ended with the Weinstein Company, and I went to go get another deal at E1, and then another like one-off deal. They were like, we can't do this deal. Like this is incredible. Like you're so like we can't even match that. So I got a great deal, and I call it the Harvey factor because he got such a great deal. So by default, I got such a great deal, and
right.
we were 50-50 partner. We brought in Electus, and then we were just a third, and a third. So I was always equal with him. He said to me, he's like, you're it. You're the TV department. You're all I got right now. And you're going to run this show. And he let me, without having any TV experience, be in the foreground and really uh, lead the charge for Mob Wives. And then at the time, help in his own, build out his own unscripted department. And then Meryl Poster was there, and she and I became like this, and we're still like this. And he did me, as many people hate him, he did me a great service in how he treated me and allowed me to just run with stuff. And so I learned on the job pretty much. And that's why a lot of people hated me. A lot of people, they were just mad that I had such leeway so early on in my career, and they wanted the same and they couldn't have it. But
I'm sure there's a lot of jealous people out there.
yeah, yeah, it's for sure.
But you know that, and that just proves what I keep saying over and over on this program is hard work plus just making those connections, networking,
Relationships.
a little bit of luck, but really if you work hard
Right.
and you make those relationships like you said, something's bound to happen.
Yeah, and I'm not one for really burning bridges because you never know. Like, I'll give you a prime example. When I was at the Weinstein Company, Julie Rappaport was David Glasser's assistant. And I remember every time we would speak to each other, and I would always tell David, you need to promote her. She's like amazing, whatever, whatever. And she was so good. And eventually he said, you know what? I took your advice. I promoted Julie. Now she's the head of film at Amazon. Like
Wow.
the head of film at Amazon. And it's like I can call Julie whenever I want because you gotta just keep those relationships and you gotta, cultivate them and water them and treat everyone the same, whether they're the assistant, the kid in the mailroom, and because you never know, that mailroom kid is going right to the top.
You're so right. I was just talking to someone today from LA who does red carpets, and he was saying the same thing. He's Tyrone. His name is Tyrone, and he was just saying the same thing to me. He says, I don't, someone wants, a publicist wants me to interview somebody. I always said yes. And some of those people, they don't forget. And then when they become big stars, guess what? They're pulling me out and saying, hey, let's do an interview. Like they don't forget. So you should never say no.
Exactly. I don't. Unless I really am busy, but I'll figure out another day or something like that. But
Well, again, I love talking to you because you motivate me, Jen. So,
great. I wish I could. I mean, I do motivate myself. I get tired.
yeah.
And I'm tired of talking about the same, like, tired of talking about Mob Wives too. I think I'm going to put that one to bed.
And I understand that too because I did a movie, a short film. I won 12 festivals called Washington Avenue. And I did it in my neighborhood. It was my first short. And it did really well. But, I said, okay, well, I don't. It really wasn't a mob thing. It was there were mobsters in it, but it really wasn't. It was a story about basically what is honor. We talked about what's honor. But anyway, I said, I gotta, I don't want to get around the mob thing all the time. So then the next show I did was a mob comedy, and like now I have the mob series that we're trying to pitch. That I mentioned, so I just can't get away from myself.
Well, here's the thing. So, and Meryl Poster said to me, I fought it for so long. Everything that I was writing was not mob. Everything that I was trying to do was not mob. And she said, Jennifer, go with what you know. This is your brand. Until you don't need it anymore, stick with it. And so for a lot of years, I was going in circles trying to do this, and then I did. I came back to the mob stuff. There's one of the things that I did sell and set, not sell, but set for development is a mob thing. But I think I've gotten to the point now where I've made so many relationships in the scripted world, and now they're reading my stuff and they're reading stuff that's not mob. I no longer need that mob crutch, if you will. But at the same time, everything I write has elements of family and loyalty and trust and mob themes, right? But what I'm doing, like you could take a mob theme and write it into a YA show, and now it's still your brand and it's still your ethos and your mindset, and it just flows so much better because you know it in your heart, but you can write it into anything. And that's what I'm doing now because I'm tired of the mob. I'm tired of talking. The tour, I came off that tour and I was like, I don't ever want to speak about Mob Wives again. I was on stage all day talking about Mob Wives, Mob Wives, Mob Wives, promoting the tour, Mob Wives, I'm like, and it's just like, maybe it's time to put that to bed. And the minute I put that in my head, now I set this YA thing. It's going to be announced soon. I can't say with who. I wish I could. But now I set this YA thing that's not mob, but still has elements of family in it. Um, the minute I kind of like shut the door on one thing, another one opened. So I think I'm at a point where I could skate away a little bit while always keeping it. It's who I am, right? It was where I got my start in life. Literally, I was born into it, and then it's where I got my start in my career. So I'm never gonna not entertain it or do it. And I have probably six other projects on my slate still, but my heart is really going elsewhere right now.
The more you try to get out, the more they pull you in.
Yeah, well, that's what's happening. Because I go to meetings and like, well, what do you have in the mob space? I'm like, everything. I have everything. What do you need? And I just got a call 2 days ago from a micro drama company. They want to, guess what? They want to do mob stuff. So that I will do, and that's easy. And I'm going to put my son to work on that. That's going to be his sort of project and start in the business because it's the easiest. So whereas for me, unscripted was the easiest at the time, I think micro drama is the easiest for him because it's of his age group, it's of that mindset, and he relates to it and he could kind of digest it way faster and better than I can. So I think I'm going to give that to him.
Yeah, I'm still on the fence with microdramas. I'm not against, I'm always open-minded to everything, especially with whatever's on kind of like trending. And I interviewed Larry Namer, who's a co-founder of the Entertainment Network, and he's a huge believer. And so I'm trying to be a believer. I'm like, just make it short, like if I want to do that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
exactly.
mean, look, there's a huge market for it, so why not? But
Exactly.
but as far as the yeah, it's ironic too because you think like you do all this mob stuff and you're kind of like tired of it. It's like, but there's so many people that are not Italian
Not
that are
tired.
like fascinated by this stuff. Like, Midwest people are just like, they can't get enough of it. It's like, oh God, after
I
a
know.
while.
And when I'm writing, it's always like I go there, right? And I'm like, oh, that's a mob character. And I'm like, God damn it, he sounds just like one. I gotta rewrite it. But then I'm just like, I just let it go. And then I'd make little tiny changes and nuances, and then it's no longer a mob character, but it's someone that is easily recognizable if you're a mob fan. You know what I mean? So I think that's the best way to manifest it for myself, to still have it while still getting away from it. But my mob series will probably be the first one that makes it to air. So all of this conversation will probably be for nothing.
As a writer, and like my first love is I love to write. Like you said, I think we all have a lot in common because when I was I don't know, seven maybe or six or seven, I would write these little short stories, and I always loved writing at an early age. So, and that is what I love to do too. And one thing, and I'm not sure if this happened to you, but when you start to write and you start to write, you realize that the story, the characters themselves start to take a life of their own, and they almost lead you to a certain direction.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I gotta write something tonight. A Bible. I gotta create a Bible. So that'll be my goal for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't know how long it'll take me, but
Well, good for you. Keep going, Jack. Keep on going as long as we can keep on going. But in the meantime, because you've been very generous with your time, I want to keep you all night. But let's tell everybody now you're on Instagram, you're on across all social media. It's not hard to find you. But is there any specific website you'd like to mention?
marriedbythemob.com. Our next show is August 21st in Hudson Valley at City Winery. Then we are at Avenel Performing Arts Center on September 12th, 13th, and then October 16th, 17th, 18th. We're also in Rhode Island at Rhodes on the Patuxent on September 20th. After that, you'll probably see, Tarrytown in Florida and Vegas, Lord willing. But that's definitely the website, obviously. And then also Married by the Mob at Married by the Mob on Instagram. My website is justjennproductions.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn and all the other places.
Not hard to find. But anyway, again, anyone who's listening or watching, make sure that we're following, supporting everything that Jennifer does. She's very creative, and I'm a big fan of yours. So, and I want to see you keep going and doing more and more. So, it's up to us as people out there to continue supporting on social media. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to me. And until next time, my wonderful guest has been Jennifer Graziano, and you've been watching Inside Hollywood with Vinny. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.